Your host is Arlene Washburn, an award-winning ethical matchmaking advocate, mentor, and industry innovator. Let's dive in.
Debra, it's so great to have you here. I remember meeting you in a women's event in New Jersey and being very impressed with your passion and, for helping business owners. I don't remember years ago, I think you were doing like ideology or
Yeah,
something. I don't even know how
I
to pronounce
remember.
it.
Yes, a long time ago. I took a little pivot out of finance into, alternative health. So I was doing that at the time, and it was really fun because it was giving. And I was working with women more at the time because I'm a woman, right? Kind of made sense.
Mhm.
So yeah, hanging out with other women, supporting other women, and just kind of giving them some insights into like their business acumen because we were all kind of starting our businesses at the same time, and I had this big experience in the background in business, right? Evaluating financials and things like that. So I knew how businesses ran. So that's where it was like, oh, let me bring this in. It was really fun and it was something fun to do, but it was also a great conversation starter so that we could really pinpoint how they jump-started their businesses and how they really made them take off.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think the years, okay, so this is going back years, maybe 2013 or something.
Yes.
And then I took one of your courses back then, which was kind of like a finance
Yeah.
budgeting type of thing. And I really want to get into that because I know now you're focused on the profit powerhouse blueprint, which is so essential for every entrepreneur out there and business owner. And I know a lot of it comes from the Profit First book that I also read and I thought was really interesting. But implementation is not that easy. So I want to talk lots and lots about that. But today, I'm just excited for you to dive into helping matchmakers who often make unique have some financial challenges, especially with cash flow, so that they can create more profitable businesses and be able to manage those cash flows better so they can deal with those dips and those highs and lows. So let's jump in. So I want to know, first and foremost, what was the pivot that you made from Wall Street into this whole entrepreneurship thing? Like, what made you want to do that? How did you do it? I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
And honestly, it's one of those things where, what do they say? What's that saying where it's like when you're in a challenging situation, it's kind of
Hmm.
like the mother of invention really
Yeah.
gets you to where you need to go. And so I had
Necessity is the mother of
necessity.
invention.
Yes, thank you for helping a sister out here. Well, I didn't plan on it, and what happened was is I had a life change. I had my daughter. I got pregnant and had a baby. So my husband and I were both in corporate, working for Wall Street firms. I was on the trading side. My husband was on the technology side, and we understood the world, but we also worked a lot of hours. And so that was really the pivot. Once I went out on maternity leave and all the hours that I worked, I mean, we left 5 a.m, sometimes getting home 10, 11 o'clock at night. And we loved it, loved it. But, when you have a little person in your life now, somebody's got to be around, right? So, and at that time, I was an older mom and I was like, you know what? Wall Street's it's kind of a younger person's game, right? So, and I had done a really nice run and I was like, I have a lot of good experience. I think maybe I can pivot this. And it was one of those things, I'll tell you, this is actually how I started it. I walked in to resign and the company that I was with was actually a bit of a newer firm. Wall Street there's a lot of technology. So it was more technology, right? That's the time we were in. And I went in to resign and I'd known the head of HR because we all kind of started in the company at the same time, had a lovely conversation. And I asked a question for what was going on at the time because listen, Wall Street paid some really, really big bonuses back in the day. This is before Lehman
Mhm.
Brothers, right? Lehman Brothers had just hit. We're about two years after that, where we had some really, really big dips, and a lot of people took a lot of hits. And I said, "Hey, how is everybody handling their money?" Right? Because everybody's so used to getting these big bonuses. Like, what are you seeing? And she's like, "Oh, I see a lot of 401k loans now because people were always spending into their bonuses." And I was like, do you know I have a background in first financial planning and banking before I even came to Wall Street? She's like, no. I was like, I think I can help some people. And so that's really when my business started, when I resigned from my one company and they said, you know what, you got to start a business because we have to pay you as an independent contractor. So you got to go out and start a business and come on in and help us. And that's really where it started.
That is so amazing and so true that necessity is the mother of invention. And it's amazing how the universe also kind of line things up for you so that you can move from one thing to the other. And if you're in flow and with ease about it, it happens so nicely. Whereas so many people just fight the change, and I find that a lot, especially people were getting laid off left and right. I actually started my business in a similar way. Well, not helping the folks in the business, but I was laid off and I was doing really well. I was a senior director at a pharmaceutical marketing agency and had a big team. And when they let me go, I had already been thinking that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, that I wanted to start this matchmaking thing, and I just started it and I've never looked back ever since. And I just think that it's so important to embrace the change and really just go for it.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, Arlene, because it all starts with one thing. And I think people, they always ask, and they probably ask you, is like, how did you do that? Like, how do you really make the shift, right? And it's when you have a life change, whether it's a layoff or you're having a child or whatever it is. I have to tell you, I did figure out what it was. And what it was that brought me to that and brought me to all of those things starting to fall into place was making the decision.
Mm,
Making the decision. So, when they say burn the ship, that old concept of like, if you're going to a new land, right? And you go to that new land, and then once you touch that land, you turn around, you burn the ship so you can't go back. And I knew when I had my daughter, I was like, you know what? I know I only have one, and I knew I was only going to have one, right? So I was like, I've got one chance at this. And so that's when I decided to leave a job that paid me a lot of money. Right.
yeah.
And my
Oh my
husband was a
God.
little nervous, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to decide to do this. And you know what? It's scary. It's like jumping off the Grand Canyon without a parachute. Not going to lie to you, but I made the decision and I stood in the decision and I didn't waffle. And that was the magic. I didn't
I
know what
love it.
was going to happen, but I knew that if I made the decision, burn the ship, and just move forward, just start connecting with people. And that's what happened when I went in to resign. That was like the biggest gift I could have ever gotten. But it wouldn't have happened if I was waffling.
I love it. It's so funny. You and I have so many things in common. I have one daughter and a grandson now. And what's amazing is that I've always been that type of person where when I flip the switch, I'm done. I'm moving on. I don't believe in having plan A, B, C, and D because then you're not focused. So if you are going for A and that's it, this is what we're doing. If things have to change and once you get on that plan and it doesn't work out, A, you learn a lot from failure, and B, you then make that pivot. But if you're going in with these other ideas behind the scenes, it's very distracting. So I love that. And I am one to like burn the ship as well. Like
Yeah.
I just left the pharmaceutical industry after 20 years making good money as a senior director. And I was like, I'm doing this. And people thought I was crazy because most people don't know that matchmaking is a very lucrative career aside from being first and foremost very fulfilling to help people find love. And God, I mean, besides money, what's the most important thing that you could choose in your life? It's the
Yeah.
partner, right?
Yeah.
Like having your
Partner.
husband there to support you.
Absolutely. And with that, and this is interesting too. I probably would have been a client of yours if I couldn't. Because I got married later in life, but I was
Yeah.
so happy that we were older. I was probably 35. My husband was 41. I like to say I was his midlife crisis. And you know what? Doing that later in life, we actually found each other. So that was pretty amazing. But I got to tell you, that didn't happen. I would have been in your office.
No, I hear you. And guess what? That is the norm now. Most marriages are happening later in life. I mean, I got married. I met my late ex-husband when I was 19. By
Mm,
the time I was 22, I already had a child. So
yeah.
my daughter's going to be 37. I don't know why I've created a mental block because I feel like I'm getting older every time I say her
Yeah.
age.
Yep. Yep. It's amazing.
Okay, so yeah, it goes by so fast, and I'm so grateful. She's such a wonderful
Mm.
daughter and mother, and now this
Oh, but
grandson.
that's a testament to you, Arlene. So
Thank you, thank you. All right, well, I want to jump into this cash flow thing, which is a major, major issue with matchmakers because their businesses can have a lot of highs and lows and very unpredictable income streams. And So, and they have high marketing costs if they actually are doing marketing. So what are some first steps that matchmakers can take to address this problem?
Yeah. So this is a great question. And I know you alluded to Profit First, and that's a great book to get, to really start looking into this. So what Profit First does, it's, people think, accounting and things like that when they start talking numbers, and that's not what it is. It's really the business owner's blueprint and their best friend in order to have a profitable business. And so what's really cool about it is that, yes, matchmakers' income goes like this, up and down. It's kind of like realtors' income as well, right? When they sell a house, same thing, they get a big influx of cash. So,
100%.
there's a couple different things that you can do, but what's nice about Profit First is it looks at everything in your business from a percentage basis. So basically, just say you have, I'm just going to put an arbitrary number, $8,000 that came in the month, right? You $8,000 came into the business. You'll start looking at it differently from the Profit First perspective, because when that comes into your bank account, you would know using that methodology that $8,000 isn't available to spend. It's actually less, because what you're doing is you're making sure you're compensating yourself for all your time, right? So this is for your personal bills, right? So it's kind of like your paycheck, right? So you have to carve out your paycheck, got to carve out for a little bit for Uncle Sam to keep him happy, because, ooh, we got a little thumbs up on that. And then you can carve out a little bit for profits. And that's the whole premise, is that you can be profitable from day one in your business. It doesn't matter. It's very intentional. So if you carve those three things out and then have what's left for your operating expenses, guess what? You make very, very different spending decisions. So I'll give an example, right? $8,000 comes in. If when you go through that set of allocations, right, between you, taxes, and for profit, just say you have $5,000 left. You make very, very different spending decisions on $5,000 versus $8,000. But that's what keeps everything in line for you. And when you're starting out, it's good to be conservative and a little scrappy, right? But invest in the things that you need to in order to grow the business, right? You might have to stretch, you might have to do a couple of things. But in the grand scheme of things, if you just look at it from that perspective, it just changes the way that you operate and how you spend your money in your business, and how you think about how you're going to allocate money, especially to marketing. And I do have some things on marketing as well, some tips on that as well, because that's big, big for your industry.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about that. But so basically what you're saying is most people think about, okay, these are my expenses, so therefore I have to go find income to cover that. And then it's like, it's the opposite, versus like, this is my income, and therefore I need to do X, Y, and Z to live within the confines of that. So I'm not running up my credit cards. And, this really applies to everybody.
Yeah.
This is just a really, really good system. And I remember reading that book and thinking that to myself, that it was like, wow, this, especially because you're dealing with the percentages. So regardless of what the dollar amount is, you're still dealing in those percentages. And then also there's like a whole banking system that, they talk about in that book, to allocate the money, like literally allocate it, not just mentally. Because I think
exactly. Physically.
Physically. Thank you.
Physically. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me more about this marketing thing. I'm curious what you have to say.
And I'm going to give it to you from my point of view, because I've invested marketing dollars as well. And here's what I will tell you. I think that marketing companies get a bad rap, because people will invest money in marketing companies and then they don't get the outcome that they want. But here's what I'm going to tell you, and it's a bold statement. All marketing works. But here's the caveat, and this is really, really good for your listeners as well to be able to take this in. Here is what you can do. You have to be a partner with your marketing firm. The mistake people make is they take this, they pick it up, and they put it in the marketing company's hands, like, okay, go do your thing and go bring me, go market, make sure you're bringing me prospects and leads and things like that. It is a partnership. And on the other side, where marketing companies could do better is to emphasize that partnership. So what you have to remember, the marketing company is there to amplify whatever you give them. So if you don't give them enough, or if you're not clear on who you're looking for, like your target market, your demographic, what they think, what they say, what they feel. So you've got to do a little bit of groundwork and a little bit of background. There's plenty of ways you can do that, right? So get that together first. And then, because all they're doing is shining a spotlight and kind of putting you on the stage with what you give them. So, like, as I like to say, garbage in, garbage out. So if they don't have specifics, it's not going to happen, right? And then that's where you feel like, oh my gosh, I just wasted these dollars. So whatever you give them, make sure you're partnering up with them. Number one, having weekly check-ins and really talking about what's working and what's not working on a weekly basis so you can catch things. I know people who just let it loose with their marketing company, don't hear from them until 3 months later, and then they're scratching their head like, why isn't this working? It's like, it's a partnership. It's like a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like a marriage. Absolutely. So make sure you're partnering with your marketing company, having those conversations, but make sure you're giving them the right information, because your marketing company a lot of times will start marketing a way that they think that they should be marketing you. When you're like, no, 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 that isn't what I do. That isn't what I say. That isn't who my client is. But when you're meeting often on a weekly basis, like 30 minutes, it doesn't take a long meeting, right? Once a week, 30 minutes, then you can pivot and then correct them, have them course correct, and then implement the marketing. The other thing that the reality is you got to give your marketing company probably 6 months, but I'm going to say 3 months grace, because they got to get to know your business. They got to be testing the market. So it is an investment for the first, usually they say 3 to 6 months, but I'm going to say 3 months just so that, the 6 months is a little bitter pill to swallow. But as long as you are involved in that partnership, and they'll tell you what they need, and then you'll notice what's not working. So it's a working partnership, but you can course correct within 3 months, get those dollars working for you. So yeah. And, I'm sure there's a lot of ad purchasing and things like that. And there's a lot of testing. And so, for the first couple of months, you can do that. But then once you get it dialed in, then those marketing dollars, whatever you're spending for ads, should go down.
Yeah, that's such great advice. I could not agree more. And I often say that because what I do these days is really, I'm a business coach for matchmakers. And I always say to them, you have to partner. First of all, you do have to market yourself. You do have to partner, because they have to understand your product, and you know your product better than anybody else.
Yeah.
And also looking at your numbers and where what's working, because I mean, everything you said, I'm not even going to repeat it. It's just such gold that people really need to take to heart, to really understand marketing, because that's my background, is marketing, sales and
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get the leads or the sales if you're not marketing yourself.
Yeah.
Build it and they'll come is not the truth. You
You
have
got
to,
it. And
yeah.
you even saw me back when I was marketing. I never paid for ads probably until about maybe 5 years ago. I never participated. I did what we call the one-to-many marketing model, right? So what I did is I had a 30-minute, 45-minute talk, and I would go speak to women's groups, women's business groups, right? I would give them a talk. I had a topic, a hot topic, gave them 3 bullet points, and then offered free initial consultations. And that's how I built my business. It cost my time, but it didn't cost me marketing dollars, right? So in the beginning, that's what I did. So I'm telling you, if you like talking to people and meeting people, I was able to meet 20, 25, 30 people at a time versus, just the one-offs, right? So that's another way to just make sure you're getting in front of an audience, right? Getting in front of somebody else's audience, because other people are always looking for content too. And if you can bring that, they bring the audience, you bring the content, it's beautiful. And it's a win-win for both of you. Once again, no physical dollars out of your pocket, but it does take your time.
I love it. And I actually think that on occasion you should just sell to get on stages as well, because
Yeah.
there's some great stages
Oh, yeah.
where, and to, we definitely need to talk a little bit about sales as well, because
Yeah.
that's a big challenge. So I'll give you an example. I train matchmakers, right? Someone who's leaving corporate to become a matchmaker. And the first roadblock is sales, because they think they're hurting people or that they're being pushy or whatever. And I'm like, that's not the case. I mean, sales is an integral part of a business, or a business doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And secondly, if you have a service that they need, and people walking away and not getting that service, I kind of, like, for me personally, I feel like I failed, because
Absolutely.
somebody's walking away and not getting what they need, which I know I can give to them. The only way to give it to them is through inviting them into your business and selling. So this mindset of like, I'm hurting or I'm pushy or whatever,
Well,
it's so crazy, but it happens all the time. That's my biggest hurdle with the newer matchmakers, trying to get them on board with
yeah.
embracing it.
Well,
What do you have to say about that?
yeah,
So,
the challenge coming from corporate is that most people aren't taught sales, and we aren't taught sales in school, right? But we're selling all day long, right? If I sell my husband on doing a chore around the house, that's a sale, right? It is. When your kid's like, "Hey mom, I need money to go to Starbucks with my friends," that's a sale, right? So what I like to say is that when you have a passion for your business, right? So your people have a passion for being a matchmaker. Why? Listen, they're finding the partner of their life. Like, you can't even put a dollar figure on that. It's like infinite, right? But at the same time, when it comes to sales, here's the key. And I heard this phrase a long time ago, and it really, really resonated with me, because even though I have a background in selling and having relationship management and whatnot, I still struggled with sales as well. Absolutely. Because selling in corporate for me was very different than selling myself. So that was my struggle. But when I heard this, it really came all together for me, and I'll share it with you as well. The saying goes is that sales isn't something you do to someone. It's something you do for someone.
yeah.
Instead of doing it to them, right, where you feel like
Yeah.
icky and like I'm hurting them, that's doing something to someone versus you're doing it for someone. And here's the key with sales is that it's not about push, push, push selling your stuff. It's about pull, 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 find out what your
Mhm.
prospect or lead wants. And then when you do that, you take really good notes, and then you sell it back to them. And then what happens is they say, I want this, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this. Great. Well, we can partner together. Would you like to know how we do that? Yes, now you can explain your services, but it's a high, high, high listening skill. Number one. Number two, asking questions. And then number three, sharing with them, well, here's how we do that. And then at the end, asking for the sale. And honestly, by the time you get to that point, if you take those 3 steps, your prospect is selling themselves. And that's the other secret, is that there's no selling in sales.
Agreed, 100%. I'm curious for you, and what advice are you giving entrepreneurs who are online? And what I mean by this is, I'm on LinkedIn, for example. I live on LinkedIn these days, even though a lot of people on there would like for me not to talk about dating and relationships on LinkedIn because they think it's a business, and it is. I actually posted a rant, and it went viral on LinkedIn because I'm like, love and relationships is a serious business, but I'm also, running a school for that. And I get these messages every day, and they're so annoying, and like annoying, but also like condescending, because it's like, oh, we took a look at your website and you really could do blah, blah, blah. Like, you walking in criticizing your potential customer.
Yeah.
You're already telling me about something you can solve when you don't know anything about my business. And by the way, what website are you talking about? I have 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think that works. And I'm just curious, what techniques would you advise for, especially for matchmakers, because they are going on LinkedIn
Yeah.
to reach out to potential clients, and how do they build those relationships and really have some success doing that?
Yeah.
Because I think social is necessary.
Yeah. So the approach that I actually like is, instead of, and I'm going to kind of switch this up a little bit. Yes, I
Hmm.
agree with you. Like the direct, hey, this doesn't work. Like, you're criticizing me. Like, that doesn't feel good. So don't do that. Right. But I will give you one example, and then I'm going to give you the switch up. So I'll give you an example of something that can work. What I like to do is I like to see people's posts and then the people commenting, right? So if somebody makes a post about whatever's going on for them in their love life, and they're, this is kind of like a difficult time. I'm a professional woman and I can't find anybody, like whatever it is, and they tell a really nice story. It's always nice to comment and send them a note and be like, hey, listen, I saw your post and it was really, really great. It really resonates because I deal with this all the time since I'm a matchmaker. I just want to say kudos to you and give them a compliment for whatever they posted, right? So
Hmm.
you're starting to build that relationship. Or on the flip side, if you put a post like you did, right, and people react to it, that's when you can start the conversation to say, oh, thank you so much for reacting to my post. What did you think about this or that? And then you can start that dialogue. Once again, asking questions. You're not selling, you're not pushing,
Right.
you're pulling, right? What did you think? And then that's how you can start the conversation. You say, yeah, and then you can start telling stories. Well, yeah, no, I've seen that with my other clients, this situation, and then this was the solution. And we had a really successful match. And then they might be like, oh, so you start that relationship and they might be like, maybe I should talk to you further. Great. Let's schedule a 30-minute call, right? So I like to do it from a post, right? So if you make a post and people are reacting, always go to those people that even if they just liked it, just say, hey, thanks for reacting to my post. Was there something specific that hit home for you? I'd really love to know, because that also helps you with what? Your marketing, right? It all rolls up.
Research too. Yep,
Yep. There
absolutely.
you go. So the posting in LinkedIn, I love that. So that's kind of like my little switcheroo there.
I love it. Oh my gosh, such good, gold that you're dropping over here. So I hope people are picking up what you're putting down. Very practical. I can't get over the conversation you and I had. When was it? A couple of months ago, before the new year, and I was saying to you, I need to get a personal assistant, especially now because my mom, actually, I just moved my 92-year-old mom in with me, and she's doing great. She's in great shape and everything else, but just a little bit forgetful here and there, and it worries me. She was living an hour away, and I'm like, okay, she needs to live here. So I have to now make sure I make breakfast for her and lunch, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to get a personal assistant. And you were like, girl, I have somebody who will pack my bags when I'm traveling. I'm like, okay, we need to talk a little bit about this because, you know, people go into business and it's like, why are you going into business? To, be working the same way that you would if you're working in corporate America? Or are you going into business to have the kind of lifestyle that you want to have and the freedom and everything else? So let's talk a little bit about that because I feel like, I see people starting these matchmaking companies and they're basically an employee to their clients and they don't have any free time and they're not managing their time. They're not, making the kind of, or at least managing a cash flow in the way that you and I had talked about, as well as prioritizing the things that matter and really looking out for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really, really hard, right? And I even remember having to make the transition, even though I understood finance very, very well on a lot of different levels. Um, when you are in a corporate environment, you don't have, or you're not actively learning entrepreneurial skills or business owner skills, right? So when you come out of that, it really is like drinking out of a fire hose, because you can either create a job for yourself or you can create a career for yourself, right? Or a
Mm-hmm.
business, right? Having a job and having a business are two different things, because if you're working in the business too much, then you're not working on the business. And when you're working on the business, that's where the growth comes. So it is a balancing act, right? And I'm a Virgo, so I'm pretty organized. So when it comes to the magic, and I've talked to a lot of business owners, this goes right from Tony Robbins all the way down, right? Scheduling things, and really learning how to schedule your time, and making time blocks for clients, working on the business, finance, marketing, right? Well, it doesn't have to be a lot of time, but you do have to schedule it. It keeps everything on track. And I think that's a skill set that people coming out of corporate is a skill set to learn early on, so that, they'll come up to the problem pretty quickly, but that's okay. Whenever there's a problem, always remember there's always a solution out there. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
seek it out. So you do have to make a choice. Do you want to create a job for yourself, or do you want to create a business?
Yeah, it's so funny. That's the first question I ask when they join my school. Is this a lifestyle business or an enterprise? Because, some people are just happy to do it themselves, do everything themselves, and that's, yeah, basically creating a job.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So tell me more about this personal assistant.
Listen, and honestly, I had such a block to this. So let me kind of tell you how this happened. So I have an executive assistant, online assistant for my business. So
Mm-hmm.
that person helps me out on an admin level, but I needed some help at home, right? So I work from home, you work from home. And one of those things is that, listen, when you're growing a business and you're working on your business, one of the big commodities that you need to buy back is your time. So I knew I needed to buy back my time. And I actually knew a fellow coach that was actually doing what I wanted to be doing. And I called her up and I was like, hey, Robin, listen, I know that you hire out people to like make your meals and do your laundry and pack you up. Like, how do you do that? Like, I didn't know. And I'm like, I think that's what I need, because the morning routine and end of the day, middle of the day was like killing me. Like, I couldn't keep up with the personal stuff. And she's like, girl, here, all you have to do is, what is it that you don't want to do anymore? And I wrote it down with her. And she's like, all right, now go post that on Facebook, your local neighborhood Facebook group, and say, hey, looking for someone 5 to 10 hours a week to do the following things, flexible, right? And DM me. And I got 3 people that responded and hired one person. And the one person does things more efficiently than I do. So they come to me an hour in the morning after everybody's, whipped through here, like, the Tasmanian devil, right? The kitchen's a mess, the floor is a mess, everything that needs to be cleaned up. I mean, it's just having the dishes done in the morning, prepping your lunch. I have my lunch prepped. At the beginning of the week, I have a menu for dinner. They chop everything up and I'm not to that point where they're making dinner yet, but they have all the prep ready. Right? They'll throw some things in the crock pot if we have a recipe. They'll restock like my paper towels. They'll take my laundry, throw it in the wash. Like, they will do all of that. They vacuum my floors every day, empty my garbage. It's small stuff, but it makes such a difference. I don't have to do it, and I can just take my lunch, heat it up, come back, right? And do what I have to do. So I'm buying back my time, and I'm telling you, it is so worth it for the person that works with me on this, right? They have extra money so that they can take some time off and do some things. And then I have extra time, and the investment is so worth it. I can't say that it's like, thousands of dollars a month, because it's not. I mean, I think that's where it's like, well, what would they do and how much would I have to, invest in that? And so once you start doing it, I was really surprised. This person is much more efficient than I am, because I'm caught up in my own stuff. I'm emotional over, like, if this doesn't get done or that, right? She
Right.
just comes in, gets it done, has no, isn't attached. She's like, I just got to get it done. Here, an hour in the morning, comes in the afternoon, cleans up again for another half hour. We're at like maybe 5 to 7 hours a week, not even the full 10. And she's happy with that. And I am too.
That, it's so funny because nowadays most businesses are at home.
Yes.
And, if you had to hire a cleaning person for your office, or people to do things around the office, you're like, no big deal, right? You'll do it because you see it as a business. But the reality is that having someone come to your home, and I'm getting ready to do that now with my mom's situation. I mean, she's great and she can do everything, but I definitely want to hire someone to come in. It's so needed because you need that mental space to be able to focus on your business and give the best services to your clients and not fall behind on all the things, because especially when you're home and you're seeing things slipping through the cracks. And I love it. And I want to encourage a lot of these business owners, a lot of people working from home now, to do that. And we're in that gig economy now where people there are more businesses starting up. Even that individual who comes to your home is basically their own business person, depending on how you have that structured. And I really think it's a great thing,
It
and I'm
is.
definitely going to be doing that soon. When I had my daughter, I had a live-in, but that was different because I was in corporate America. I had a steady income and everything else. So the key is then back to your cash flow, is making sure that you're allocating those funds as well in those
Yeah.
bank accounts.
And you have to rank what's really important. So for me, yes, I have to have certain systems in place. And, it's funny. I'll tell you where people get caught up. It's in the subscriptions, like a subscription for this, subscription for that, right? The online stuff. If you really, really look at those subscriptions, you probably don't need half of them. And here's the other thing, is that they do entice you with the annual subscription fee. But what I've learned is that even if you go monthly and it's probably more than you would pay for the year, most times, and I use this especially with recording stuff, there are times of the year I'm not recording. Like I will do a lot of recordings at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year. So guess what I do? I turn them on and turn them off now. Right? So why am I paying all of this money for something I'm not using all of the time? Or is there another solution now? Because things change so quickly. I remember a CRM I was paying for. Wow, that was a lot of money. And then I was like, oh, this other thing came out that's doing the same thing. I mean, I cut my expense in half. So technology is evolving and the pricing is coming down for a lot of these services. So it's just keeping an eye on that. But once again, that's working on the business. You have to have time to do that.
That's so funny. I always remember you because when I took your course, and I think it was like a financial type planning for entrepreneurs. The one thing that you immediately talked about was the subscriptions, and you're 100% right. And they get you with like, oh, it's only $20. It's only $20 a month, and 20 here, 10 here, 15 here. And by the time you look at it, you're like, whoa, I can have someone full time in my house cleaning and doing everything,
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I started to do also is I belong to certain clubs that sell SaaS software, and they're usually pretty decent products like my CRM, and you buy them outright and you never have to pay for the monthly subscription. And I really lucked out. Like with my CRM, it's HIPAA compliant. It's got all these bells and whistles, and it just gets better, better, and better. But I paid for it once, and like such a minuscule amount of money compared to what this thing is worth.
Wow.
And it was life changing. So I would encourage people to look into those things. I use a company called AppSumo, and they just push out new apps. Some of them go out of business, so you're taking a risk, but meanwhile, you're not paying those subscriptions, and you usually pay, $50, $100 for a platform, and then you're done.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about, I guess, tell me more a little bit about kind of how they should be doing their financial planning with these cash flows that change so much, so that we can put that to bed, just so that give them some real strong tips on like, here's what you need to do when money comes in. We talked about the percentages, but just go a little deeper, because a matchmaker, like you said, and that's a great comparison, very similar to the real estate industry. You make a bulk of money, you have one client, then the next client may not come for 2 months.
Yeah.
If you're really working, if you're really doing well in your business, you're getting clients consistently, but that's not always the case.
Yeah.
And then you have those times in the summer where people are out in the sun. They're not really looking for a matchmaker at that point, and you have very dry months. So what can they do, just so we can put that to bed and move on to the next thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, what's nice about doing that part of the system with the allocations, it's all based on percentages. It's not dollar figures. So that's why you want to make sure that you're doing that, because when you have really, really high months, right, that's going to be one of those things where you're going to have extra money to carry you over to the next month. So that's why it works out really, really well. It kind of gets the bumpiness, the roller coaster ride out of it. So just say you made $15,000 this month, but your expenses are $5,000. Guess what? Right? Because we're doing the allocations, you don't have 15 to spend. You have a certain percentage of that, right? So when that money is there, you're not only paying that month's bills, but now you've got money to carry over the next month. That's why we do everything on a percentage basis. So that's when that happens. The other part of this is that when you have these dips, right? What's nice about the system Profit First is that when you have the allocations, and there's usually 5 accounts, right? So more tactically, right? So you're looking at 5 accounts. You're looking at money coming into your income account. So that's the account where your money comes in. And that's the only thing it does. It just holds money coming in. And then you have your operating expense account. That's the account you write your bills out of. So it's 2 separate places. That's really key. Because what I like about the system, it's really gamified, right? So it's like, oh, I got money coming in. Now I'm going to allocate everything, and then I'm going to see what I have in my operating account. But one of the accounts is a profit account. So this ensures that you are profitable every single time a dollar comes in. But what's also nice about it is that the profit account has 2 different functions. One is profits for you as the business owner. So 50% goes to you every quarter, but the other 50% is a nice cushion for when you have those dips in your business. So you see, it's all kind of baked into the cake, which is so brilliant. So there is a place for money that you can go to each quarter if you need a little more, if you need a little runway, right, for some dollars to kind of carry you over. So the other thing, and this is a question for you because I'm really curious. In the real estate, they really can't do this, but with regards to matchmakers, do they have an option or like a core business offer where they kind of like do a try before you buy kind of a thing? Like, is there any kind of like core offer? Like, I know some people have books that they do or like mini courses that they do where maybe they do a little coaching first before they actually do the matchmaking. And then, so it brings in some revenue, but it's kind of like getting into that ascension model. So I kind of wanted to ask you that because I was really super curious of how that would work.
Yeah, so the way I teach matchmaking and pricing and packages is I often think they should have three packages that are varying in price points. Most of the time they're selling the middle package, and then there's a downsell and an upsell. And not really, I shouldn't even call it an upsell. It's more of like someone who needs more of your time is going to have to pay more because already the industry is very time heavy. Like I mean, think about it. People go through life and they go into their 30s without a partner and they expect you to find that partner in 6 months. So it takes a lot of time. But then with that said, a lot of matchmakers do ancillary things like offer courses, offer coaching, maybe they do events. So I always recommend that they do summer events because those are the slow months. Maybe they have an annual white party to keep the cash flow going. So it's all about being strategic, but it's going to be different for everyone because some people don't want to do events. That's very time consuming. So they do have that. I mean, this is the thing about matchmaking, aside from the fact that they're helping people find love and, creating those connections, everything else is like they're just business people. They also do speed dating. There's all kinds of things that people do to supplement their income. They might be selling books. A lot of matchmakers are on TV and they're on shows and getting a lot of press from those types of things. So yeah, it's an interesting industry, but it's becoming bigger and bigger because people are just tired of online dating. So this is becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they will do also is if somebody cannot afford matchmaking because it tends to be pricey, they might also have a division that helps people with their online dating platforms to help them be more successful. So there's a bunch of different things.
That's great. And so, having your bigger offer, right, where it really gets into the, like, we're going to find, like, this is what we're doing here, like the core matchmaking offer, right, to have other things to offer as you go along. And once again, connections, right, in the summer, people are always out and about, like, where are people, just connecting. And so this was the other thing I wanted to tell you too about LinkedIn, is that even if you're in the summer doldrums, from a marketing perspective, who else is serving your client? So what we're looking for is other people that are doing something for your ideal client, but don't offer the services that you do. So it's kind of like a complementary partnership. They're in this lane, you're in this lane, but you're serving the same target market. And so when you have that lull in matchmaking, instead of going after your actual potential client, looking at some partnerships, because those partnerships are going to be active in the summer, right? Those types of people that are working with your ideal client, revving up those relationships, right? So that's a really good way to spend your time because they're serving the same client. So how can you help each other? So having those partnership conversations work really well.
Absolutely. That is more gold and something that I talk about a lot because when I was a matchmaker, I partnered with even a magazine. Like, do you remember with us, we had the 201 magazine?
Yes.
I used to be in that magazine all the time. I was at events and my name would come up and I knew all the photographers that were taking photos for that. Or, plus I also was the board chair of the YWCA. So it got me on these things. And so people would see me. You need to always be top of mind. And you partner, like if Mercedes-Benz, because I always drove Mercedes. So if they were having an event, they would always invite me. And I also talk to the salespeople. You're dealing with high-end clients. Hey, if they're single and they're looking referral fees and creating ambassadors, going to fancy restaurants. The bartenders always, they're
There
like,
you go.
I mean, yeah, there's so many partnerships, but I 100% agree that you need to be looking at your metrics and how many people you're adding to your database and how many people you're
Yeah.
adding to your partnerships where you
Yeah.
can help promote one another.
Yeah.
So important.
Absolutely.
Um, what do you see? What do you see as a trend now in terms of entrepreneurship and the business world? In terms of entrepreneurs, like what's the future? What are you seeing as far as trends where things are going?
AI. Huge. Huge.
Hello.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's two schools of thought on that. I think AI can be something that can be seen as a bad thing, but also I always like to tell people that when you think of this, and I always give this example, right, where let me get a pen here. So it doesn't matter. People have an aversion to AI, so you have to think: is your job going to be taken over by AI? Is AI going to be doing the matchmaking? No, right? You have to have that human connection. But at the same time, when people have an aversion to AI, I say, all right, you have to remember that if in anything at all, right, there is a good and a bad. So even
Oh,
if you, right, I'm going to take this mechanical pencil, right? You can either, with this mechanical pencil, I'm just going to be a little old school for a moment. You can write a beautiful literary paragraph, right? Or write a story, a little love story, right? And be able to fill the hearts of people and have a feel good story, right? Or you could take this, or you could write something scathing about someone or something or a cause that you're really, really passionate about that maybe
mhm.
somebody isn't doing right by someone else, whoever, whatever that is. But you can, so this pencil has the power to be on either side of the equation, right? So it's the same thing with AI because it's called the law of opposites, right? So that's where everything has a good and everything has a bad. So AI, we can use it to our advantage, right? And where I like to use it is in marketing, right? Just to refine what I want to say, refine maybe my bio a little bit, and then also just use that as an advantage in marketing and then give me a leg up on that. Or to do some tasks that are really repetitive that maybe I don't want to give to my executive assistant, like it's not even worth her time, right? And
Mhm.
just get that done. So automation in your business is always great, but it's all your perception. If you feel that AI, and this is the trend that I'm seeing business owners getting caught up in the mindset of, oh, AI is going to take over my livelihood. And I'm going to say, no, it's all how you think about it because there's always a good and there's always a bad with everything. It's all how you look at it.
I love it. It's such good advice, and I mean, I thought you were gonna. In my head, I'm thinking, yeah, you could write something nice, or you could stab somebody in the eye. It's the
Exactly.
same
Well,
thing.
I was going to say that, but I was like, let me make it a little, let's make it a little PJ here.
But it's so true, and I'm a big fan of AI. I've been using. I'm a techie, so I'm always embracing technology. It is life saving because even if you want to brainstorm on something, you can just do that on ChatGPT or whatever other platform you're using. It's amazing, and for marketing, but more than that, I mean, even today, my niece sent me this thing. She's like, you can just go into ChatGPT and ask it to give you a list of groceries for your week. Tell it what kind of food you like to eat and what stores you shop at and what budget you have. And it literally will tell you exactly what to buy, give you the recipes. Like, it's life changing. I
It
mean,
is.
remember the Jetsons? This is going back.
Yes, that's what I was saying. This is like the Jetsons and having Rosie in the kitchen. It is.
Yeah, I'm
It's great.
like, gosh, embrace it, just move on. People were like that about email, cell phones,
Yeah.
texting. Everything's a problem.
Yeah.
If it's a problem, if you make it a problem.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can talk to you forever, and we're
I
so
know.
aligned. You're
So
gonna have to
great.
come out and visit me out in the country.
Oh gosh, I'd love to, love to, love to. I love the country. Love it.
um, what would you want to share that we haven't talked about yet? What are some things that you're thinking about that maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one of the things I want to share and just really leave your audience with is you have to understand how important the work is that you do. And if you're passionate about it, that's great. But I also want you to understand how unique you are in what you do and how important it is. So do not discount or think that when you're having a conversation with someone, like you're hurting someone, like you are doing such good in the world. So not only have you created a business, but you've created your purpose in life. And our purpose is to serve other people. And I can't tell you, I mean, what's more important than getting someone together with their life partner? I mean, that is like you are changing lives. So whenever you kind of feel a little challenged, whether it's with finances or with marketing, there's always an answer. There's always an answer on the other end. Always make the decision that you are looking for the answer and not dwelling on the problem, because it's too important what you do. Do not give up. Keep going.
I love that. And, you know, there is a loneliness epidemic right now. So this is super important. I noticed that you have a couple of things going on. So you have the Next Level CEO,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're doing something with podcasting.
Yeah, so my website is nextlevelceo.biz. So I talk about all things finance over there, and there's some really nice freebies over there. So actually right now what I'm doing is I'm writing a book. So and that's where we had a little book interview not too long ago. Thank you so much. And so, yeah, so I'm writing a book, and that's going to be coming out next year. I'm in the research phase, but it's really bringing together better advice for small business owners when it comes to navigating the road of your finances, because there's some missing links there. We have some financial professionals sometimes that we surround ourselves with, but we're really not getting to the core of what we need. And that's what that's going to be about. So.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So what's a good way for people to find you? We'll absolutely add the website to the show notes.
Great. Yeah. Find me over on LinkedIn, Debra Angilleta. That's where I am. And I'm so active over there, just like you are. Send me a message. Would love to chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. We'll have to do this again. I love everything that you're doing, and all the advice that you're giving is so resonates with everything that I believe in. And probably the next time we talk, I'm going to let you know that I have a new assistant working with me at home, because I'm so ready for it now more than ever. But thank you so much for your time and all the good gems that you shared today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Arlene. It's always great to spend time with you and your audience.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Matchmaker Mentor podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow matchmakers and friends. For more resources, training, and inspiration, visit lovepromastermind.com and follow us on social media. Remember, matchmaking isn't just a career, it's a calling. Let's keep building connections, changing lives, and growing together. Until next time, stay inspired and keep matching.